Spec-5 World Tour is back with Season 14, and it all kicks off here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. It's the cars we've known to love, the style of racing that we enjoyed last season, but with a host of new drivers, a fresh and reinvigorated grid. I'm David Haynes with Devin Peters. Devin, we like this track. It's pretty tight, a little bit of technical, some off-camber corners, some crests. Should be good for 45 minutes of racing.
Heck yeah. These MX-5s, they always race close together, and at a place like Mid-Ohio, that's going to cause a lot of action, a lot of high-speed corners, a lot of challenging corners, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the spread of the field will do today.
Well, they're about to kick over into qualifying. Every driver gets 4 laps in qualifying to try to do their best, to try to line up front on the grid for the 45-minute race, where there will be a compulsory pit stop. The fixed setup everyone runs starts with a limited amount of fuel, and it means our pit window will be somewhere presumably between lap 9 and 19 of what is expected to be a 28-lap race today. So that is qualifying starting right now. Grid is looking really, really healthy for this new season, Devin.
Yeah, big grid, and a bunch of new faces out there today. As always, the Spec-5 World Tour is split into 2 classes, the faster pro class of drivers and the slower open class of drivers. Primarily distinguished on skill, the drivers are running the same setups in both classes. You'll see a little P appended next to their names if they're pro class, as well as the red bar underneath their number. You'll also notice that some of those numbers got some funny colors on them, Haynes. What are those all about?
It's our supporters of the league, the drivers who've donated to keep the lights on, and they also got some good little perks out of that as well, both the numbers on the broadcast, but I believe also the gold donators got to pick some of the racetracks for this season 14 as well.
Yeah, so lots of great reasons, both the coverage and the perks to be donating. And of course, with a great community like this, it's no surprise that folks are supporting it. So anyways, we see cars around in the final corner. Who are we looking at first?
Andrew Gilliland, youngest driver in the league. So I think he's a year older than when we started broadcasting this year. He might be 12 now. But he's always ferocious with that energy of youth, and he started his first qualifying lap. You'll see he's in the open class, where he was quite competitive and took a win or 2 last season. So I'm sure for this season he's focusing on a couple more wins, mayhaps even the championship in that class. And what I've been seeing out of these conditions and these cars and this setup here at Mid-Ohio for this opening round is, at least early on in a run, car is super tail happy, and that means we're only doing 4 laps in qualifying. It could still be very, very on the nose, very loose all throughout qualifying. It's in that longer run in the 45-minute race that it might settle a little more. And you can see it proved there as he goes over the hill after China Beach, and the car just wants to let you know you're alive today.
Yeah, definitely feeling it, and a new setup for the drivers this year, though a familiar one, transitioning from last year's setup to the baseline setup. So if you're driving this car out in just any old public official race, you'll get to have the same experience as these guys, minus the high quality driving and quality officiating and all the things you can expect with the Spec-5 World Series. A 135 should be a really competitive lap for the front end of the pro field, and the open class might be a little slower, closer to a 136. We'll see what it brings today.
If you've got a teammate, a family member, a friend that you're cheering on today, let us know about it. But if you want to keep across how they're performing, as we obviously can't look at everyone during this qualifying session, HJBC.live is in the YouTube comments. It's in the YouTube description. It's where you'll find live timing of qualifying and the race of everything we broadcast, so you can see where they're tracking, how their pit stops were, all of that. We've got the first times from qualifying starting to come in here. Michael Chase has gone to the top outright, and in the pro class, Tim Wire looks like he's top of the open class at the moment. So that's another new name to the league this season. A lot of our friends from the Champ Car Endurance Series and Champ Car iRacing Series, a couple of them seem to have come across to Spec-5 World Tour for this season, including a couple of the Team Salins guys.
Hey, it's never a bad thing to know guys who have a real race car, not just a virtual one. And well, Wire's got some connections there running that Salins livery.
You dare say that Salins have got some links, even. Oh, that's a knee slapper to get us started. Let's see. It does seem like almost everyone, it's all green and purple sectors on this second flying lap, still finding way more time. First flying lap completed just now for Camden Hibbett. He's a little off cycle to what everyone else is doing. He's a little later on joining us, and therefore a little earlier in his program, and he's gone to the top with his first flying lap as he gets dislodged from the top now by Nick Rice-Puto and Ronnie Coates. Keep in mind that those drivers are just completing their second lap. The first lap, year to date, first quarter financial figures looking very good for a young Camden Hibbett. Probably the second youngest driver on the grid, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. And he told us that his favorite track this season was Mid-Ohio, and he's showing us why right now with a pretty strong first lap out of the gates there. So can't feel too bad about that. Oh, second lap, my bad. At the top of the grid, though, right now is another one of our returning pro drivers, Nick Rice-Puto with a 136.0.
Yeah, and it's not super improving on this third lap. He's had a cheeky little drift there. Doesn't necessarily always mean you're going slowly. You'd rather the car went where you pointed it than you turned the steering wheel and it just didn't. Simon Bramley, though, he's gone to the top at the end of his second flying lap. He's also a little closer to the Camden Hibbett schedule as far as where to put your 4 flying laps within this 15-minute session. Mid-Ohio, underneath 2.5 miles of racetrack, so you can get around here pretty quick. You're not in a real hurry to get out of pit lane at the start of the 15 minutes to try to do 4 laps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should have a little bit of time to get the tires warm, that's for sure. And a few of the guys decided to take more advantage of that than others. Another new driver on the screen right now, that's Zeus Dalston, running a pretty fancy-looking livery by the likes of things. And
I had a look at this yesterday. You know, I am a real fan of Korean cuisine, and he's got Kimchi Killer, Kimchi Power, Do You Know Kimchi on this car. So I have no idea what that's in reference to, but it's interesting. It's got a little bit of pop art cartoon style to it, and maybe it's a K-pop thing. I don't know. I don't follow K-pop or K-dramas. I just eat the food.
I could get behind some good Korean noodles. Maybe he's hoping for a few extra horsepower out of the Kimchi Power. Tim Bramley doesn't need any extra horsepower because he's just crossed the line with 2 purple sectors and a 35.6, keeping himself on top of the scoreboards. And that'll have Camden currently running second place, a little bit frustrated. 2 seasons in a row for Camden Hibbett, 3 seasons in a row for Camden Hibbett, now finishing third or second in the points. So really has the goal this year to get to the top.
Camden super backed it off on the lap that he's just completed. He either had a mistake or he wanted to chill it out and get ready to attack on the final flying lap, which is where most of our drivers are right now. Camden Hibbett starting his 4th lap. Simon Bramley is on his 4th. Nick Rice-Puto has just completed his 4th. Zach Burke's up in 4th at the moment. He's halfway around on his final lap. And Joshua Soto just put in his final lap, and he sits 6th at the moment as Ian Giebler jumps up into 3rd outright and the top of the open class as well. Not bad there from Ian.
Yeah, Ian Giebler, a rookie with the series, joining us this time, but of course not a rookie to the channel. We've seen him around on a few of our broadcasts. Zach Burke now running this red car, though. Another quick driver. Only showed up for one race last season, but had a pretty solid finish in the top 10. I'd be curious to see how he does with a little more commitment to the series this year.
Car's all red, and we know that makes it go faster. He's in the final part of the lap there with the little carousel, and then it's kind of flat out through the left-hander at the end. Checkered flag comes up pretty quick. Will this lap be an improvement for Zach Burke? The sectors weren't all there, and it won't be, but you know who's gone purple in Sector 2 and personal best in Sector 3? Camden Hibbert. Is he tracking towards stealing pole position away? He's missing just a little bit in the first sector, though. It's looking good through the tail of the lap, but turn 1, he just hasn't hooked as he needed. And while he improves on that lap, he doesn't find the speed that Simon Bramley had, and he doesn't take away pole position.
Yeah, front row start's not too bad. Let's see if there's anyone else still out on track. A long qualifying session, like we mentioned, so about 5 minutes yet to go, but only a few cars that are still circulating at this point. Who do we got? That's Michael Coates.
Yep, he's on his last lap. Lee Martin's on his last lap. So is Orlando Harrell. Jose Gonzalez is out there, but hasn't got any laps yet. So I think Gonzalez will be racing all the way to the end. And yeah, Lee Martin. Is he improving on this lap at the moment? First sector, very good.
Yeah, it's going pretty smoothly as he crosses the hill. Heading down Thunder Valley.
Then this interesting little flick here where you want to get all the way to the Armco to open up a very, very quick corner and then into the braking zone for the final corner. It makes the apex tidily. 19th in the outright at the moment. 4th in open. Is that about to change? No, it won't, as he actually falls 1/10 of a second short of his best on that lap and finds no improvement. Here's Jose Gonzalez, open class winner of a race or two last season as well. So he has no qualifying time just yet, but with the amount of time left in the session, he'll get this lap and then at least one more, but I think he'll get 3 flying laps in this session, the way he's going at the moment. So he'll be definitely racing all the way till the checkered flag comes out in this qualifying session.
Mm-hmm. He'd probably be grumpy if I didn't correct you too. 3-time race winner last season, and some pretty impressive ones at that. Pretty big deltas between him and the guys ahead. It is worth understanding the points out here in the in the Spec-5 World Tour. The points are based on your finishing position regardless of class. So every driver is always racing every other car on track. Though if you're points racing, you might be a little bit less concerned if a couple pro drivers come blowing past you while you're in the open class. So Jose managed to have a couple races last season where he finished with a few pro cars between himself and the guys behind, which is always a great position to be in when you're running in a split class race like this.
Now, at the moment, the best qualifying time in the open class is Ian Giebler with a 1:36.08. The first lap was definitely still a build lap from Gonzalez, and he's run quite wide there on his second flying lap, and I don't think that is optimal, though. He's still building as he goes.
It'll be tough if he doesn't pick it up. It'll be a little bit tough to get another full lap in, but we'll see. One of our final cars circulating around on track.
Now here's where it gets tight is actually, he's only going to get 3 of the 4 flying laps in because there's less than a minute 30 left on the clock as he just starts what will become his final lap. You see that the third sector, where does the third sector lie on this track? That's where he lost about a second and therefore no improvement on his second flying lap. And it all comes down to this. In the 28 car field, every driver has a time at the moment. 28 is Jose Gonzalez at the moment.
Yeah, we'll see.
We need to get him a HJBC sticker stat. There's some shenanigans going on the rear quarter panel.
Yeah, we can't have any of that.
Much tidier over the hill this time around. Much better, closer to the racing line. Personal best first sector again, personal best second sector. And this is where he lost the time last lap, in this section here, over the top of the hill and then around these parts. It's all tidy, and that's all it needs to be here. I'm not sure he's going to trouble the top of the grid, but you just need something that might get you away from the tail of the grid. Oh, I didn't know it was going to be a hard cut to the end of qualifying. So he doesn't get that lap. Okay. Because it was closed, not open qualifying. That's the difference. Heat sessions are also always a hard end to qualifying. I thought because it's not a heat session, it would be fine. But this is what the grid is going to look like, and we are going to get plenty of time to go through it because we are going to get plenty of pace lap here as well. It will be a rolling start. It will be 2x2, and so the front row will be Timon Bramley and Camden Hibbett. The second row will be Ken Copeland, and there, with blue underneath the number board, Ian Giebler. So he has a very good qualifying start there. Nick Rice-Puto and Zach Burke on row number 3. Joshua Soto and Ronnie Coates, the defending champions, stop me if I'm wrong, there in 8th. Michael Coates and Mitchell Peake as our top 10. When you see all of those red number boards, you think, what a great debut qualifying performance from Ian Giebler.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely separating him, and it will be a little bit curious to see if he keeps on putting sessions together like that, if he gets the fast track towards the open, towards the pro field. But we'll leave that up to the league admin to decide. As we continue on down the field, we've got in 11th place Trevor Roy, 12th place Michael Chase. You can ignore the double L, just doing that for distinction, he says. Tom Sanders in 13th. We got Odyssey Adams in 14th. 15th place Jordy Fike. 16th place our open class championship winner from last season, Tom Athon. Now in the pro class. Number 17 on the grid is Andrew Gilliland, second place in the open class last year, hoping to move on up. 18th, Zeus Dalston, rookie to the open class. 19th, Lee Martin, open class. 20th, Sean Hayes. 21st, we got Brian Shabelski. 22nd, Greg Mack. 23rd, Heath Threm. 24th, Andy Cossack. 25th, Orlando Harrell. 26th, Josh Olson. 27th, Tim Wire. And 28th, Jose Gonzalez.
So here we are on the formation lap. You had a good look at the color numbers as well as we went through the grid. Yeah.
I'm honestly, I think, most impressed in the qualifying session by Ken Copeland here. He's got maybe 6 months of experience sim racing from the sound of things. So pretty impressive to see him coming out here and playing with the big boys right away up in this pro class and putting together some pretty good pace. He finished in the top 5 in points last season, so we'll see if he's able to sort of continue with that success and keep challenging for the overall points wins here. Who's your favorite in the top 10?
I love all my kids equally.
I feel like there's an obvious answer. First overall?
It's expecting me to be, nationalist and patriotic and parochial.
Well, I did hold back on nominating Mitchell Peake, my favorite, the Canadian who's just made its way into the top 10. But I did figure that Tim and, being Club Australia NZ, he might get some love.
Yeah, but he's in the same state as me, and I, invited him to something and he didn't come, so...
Things are on the... things are a little bit icy down in Australia, eh?
I don't know. So, we'll see. Not too far away from getting underway, though, because there is the pit entry for the pace car. It will be the pit entry for our drivers when the time comes. They're all waiting on the green flag, which we get now, and we get racing. Simon Bramley with that pole. Ken Copeland with a lightning start is immediately going to take us 3 wide down towards turn number 1. The tyre pressures aren't there, the tyre temperatures aren't there, and that curb at the apex of 1 can be brutal. The track also drops away on the far side of the curb on the exit, so you've got to be so precise through there. And the whole field, for lap number 1 of race number 1 of season 14 of Spec-5 World Tour, have made it tidily down towards the keyhole. Iconic here at Mid-Ohio. Bramley still holding that race lead. Ken Copeland holding on to his second place. Whole lot of 2 wide in the background as they make their way onto the longest straight of the racetrack.
You didn't imagine that there was a little purple blob in the grass on the exit of turn number 1. Orlando Harrell got it a little wrong all alone, but kept it off the wall and continued on.
Yeah, so he's still going. Everyone else inseparable in this pack now as they come through China Beach over the hill. And it gets a little bit more snaky, a lot more S's here now in this part of the lap for our leaders. Big movers so far. How about, Geordie Fike was up too. Other than that, not a whole lot of change, but that great start from Ken Copeland.
Yeah, that was an aggressive move, but a well-executed one, and a lot of patience from all the drivers. Only 45 minutes on the clock today, so drivers will be needing to fight for position as we get through. Pretty aggressive move there in the back of the pack. I want to say that was Sean Hayes with Andrew Gilliland. Different classes, pro versus open, but always risky when you're on the outside.
Starlston then here ahead of Lee Martin and Greg Mack, all open class drivers towards turn 1. Slightly different lines on how to approach it. Some cars really benefit from riding up on the curb there that protects the pit exit. Others want to stay off it.
Yeah, it's definitely something that can gain you a bit of time, but when you're on the cold tires, it can be a little bit risky too. So it's always a tough decision early on in the race. Really impressed by how much things have cleared out. We had a lot of single file running, which is a little bit unexpected for the second lap of a race like this.
Yeah, they're just letting Simon lead at the moment. And there's Ken sitting in second. He's grabbing a fair bit of the curb there. Bryce Puto and Zach Burke look pretty racy. Ian Giebler from that great qualifying has dropped back, and I think that might be... Is that a Lee Martin? 21 is Josh Olsen. Whoa, he's... really struggled pulling it up and following the right line, and I wonder if he's had some significant dramas there. Whoa, he has.
Yeah, he's gotten it a little bit wrong by the looks of things. We got kind of 2 parts to that replay, but as he went over the hill and tried to rejoin the track, he just continued sliding around and ended up parked 90 degrees parallel to the direction of traffic. Cost him a lot of time there.
Just a couple cars giving a little kiss to the grass and the gravel on the exit of turn 1. And he's Camden Hibbert. He's thinking about second place into the keyhole. He'll get to the inside. Can he get all the way clear on the exit? Copeland will just keep his nose in there. And they'll go side by side, and Copeland gets a better exit off. Looks like Bramley is choosing who to give the slipstream to as he doesn't follow the organic racing line. He stays out driver's left-hand side and says, good. You guys can fight behind me if you want. To try to keep Ken Copeland in position, but around the outside there Oh, he refuses to give up on it. A bit more too wide behind, as well as Rice Pudo is chopping and changing lanes with Zach Burke, and Giebler has to hold off a couple more cars behind. For second place, though, it looks like Camden Hibbett is eventually going to be able to wrestle this one away.
Oh, Mid-Ohio snaking its way over the hills and crests and off camber valleys, and sure enough, Camden Hibbett finds its way back into second place. A really nicely executed series of moves there, and showing, I think, the quality of both drivers by how well and how closely they were able to race.
Go into the carousel at the end of the lap, and that's all been rather profitable for Bramley, who now leads by 1.3 seconds over the pack behind. There he goes, and then there the rest of them go.
Yeah, I do have to think that if the drivers behind manage to get themselves sorted out, the draft should quickly close that gap up, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Things are still looking pretty calm in the back of the pack. We're kind of splitting now. We've got this lead pack that seems to go all the way back to about, well, I would say maybe 13th place, lucky 13 in the lead pack. And then we're starting to see a bit of a split back towards a second pack being led by Tom Saunders that contains more of the open field.
Yeah, and Tom Eton's been moved up into pro class from last season as well, I think. So a couple changes there too, as far as the driver roster is concerned.
Yeah, he's fighting hard right now. He's trying to find the pace and find the draft to keep himself attached to that group ahead. It was a pleasure to have Tom in the booth a few times last year after a pretty impressive season, and we'll see how he's feeling once he gets his feet underneath him a little bit now in the pro class. I'm guessing that Team Not a Team has spent a lot of time practicing this week in preparation for the new season.
They've got a significant handful of the grid. Here's Andy Cossack going slowly. Orlando Harrell will get around him, and what? Has he turned in too early there? He's definitely cut the track, and it's kind of reminiscent of what Josh Olsen did.
Mm-hmm. I think by the looks of things, the car's always unsettled as you're going into Thunder Valley there, and I think he stabbed on the brakes a little bit too hard and kind of had to dodge across the apex just to keep the car from spinning. But sure enough, that slowdown does come into effect and slows him down, and he had to give up 2 positions on his way down the straight there while he was painted back.
New season, new paint. Joshua Soto back there leading another dense group of cars with Ian Giebler, Michael Coates, Ronnie Coates, Mitchell Peake and Michael Chase, but trying to make sure they all stay with the leading group. Leaders gap just down underneath 1 second. Ken Copeland maybe coming under a little bit more pressure now after that lightning start. Yeah, and it is on this baseline setup. Tire management, I have a feeling, could be a thing because it can be easy to overheat. Oh, a few cars go off. Oh, and a wiggle sends Zach Burke wiggling. Oh, and there's a couple cars that'll be paying for it. We'll see how Zach rejoins. Oh! Right into the door of Nick Rice-Puto, who'd been off the track earlier. Camden Hibbett from second had also been off, but that is a wild, wild ride from Zach Burke. Yeah, I don't know how much he could have done to slow down. Once you're on the grass, it's just so slick. Rice-Puto carries on. It doesn't look like the car's been too terribly damaged, but yeah, one wiggle from Nick puts Zach onto the grass. Zach tries to catch it and slides across. He hits the brakes, but not a lot. Oh. That was a hard hit. From the top rope. Yeah, I don't know, a little bit of... Yeah, it was a little bit of air bump there about it. But with that drama, things are a little bit tight back in the pack. I'm looking at a battle for 8th place between Ronnie Coates and Mitchell Peake, who are side by side down the IndyCar front straightaway. Coates holding the inside, but this quickly turns into a disadvantage as they'll head over the crest to the left for the next one. A lot of grip on the inside, though, with the camber, and Ronnie is going to use that to his advantage
and have the upper hand heading into the right-hander. I love this kind of racing you get here at Mid-Ohio. Back into the advantageous position goes Mitchell Peak, and he completes the pass. Nicely done there.
Behind, Trevor Roy looks like he's going to get Fox, but no, it's not done in front here. That drop off the exit of the corner, really catching a lot of drivers out side by side over the hill and towards the carousel now, with Coates having to go around the outside of Mitchell Peak. Got the inside for the carousel and has 8th place back.
I'm really seeing some drivers start to drop off here. We got Tom Saunders, who's holding off the likes of Odyssey Adams, who was looking up the inside, dived back into line, deciding that a draft and a later attempt may be the better strategy. But the calm that we saw in the first 10 minutes of this race is starting to evaporate pretty rapidly here. And a couple of really different lines there through the keyhole. Odyssey opting for that sort of really late apex. Oh, and one behind. Spin
Sean Hayes. Sean Hayes is off at the keyhole.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I can put the blame really on anyone but Sean. He got in a little bit deep. He tried to hold the outside line. Car started to drift, and he couldn't catch it. And he rejoins a few seconds further back than he was before.
Yeah, just found no grip off the conventional racing line there as he got out a little bit wide.
We did see that a little bit. Of course, we streamed a 4.5-hour race here on the weekend with the TCR cars, Champ Car Enduro Series. And we did see that when you get offline here, it can be really hard to find any sort of grip, especially once you get a few cars driving around, picking up some marbles and some dirt.
This is our leading 3 at the moment. Bramley's been cut back to 8/10 by Cam's Inhibit, and Ken Copeland's still going with them after all of the drama behind, dominantly between Zach Burke and Nick Rasputo. Joshua Soto's now 4th, leading Zach Burke, Michael Coates, and Ian Giebler in that next little group, and then Mitchell Peak. So those are your kind of 3 groupings at the moment.
Yeah, Josh Soto didn't make it out for a ton of races last season, but he's a familiar name on the channel and a veritable competitor in these Miatas. Definitely was actually a little bit surprised to see him having qualified down in 7th place. But he is doing his best to try and cross that gap to the lead pack ahead. And I have this feeling that if he gets there, we won't be able to count him out of a battle for the lead.
Looking at Ronnie Coates behind Mitchell Peak as he had a little bit of a look there.
Yeah, Coates trying. It's really hard to make a move though through the middle section here of the track without a little bit of help from a mistake by the guy ahead. Never a bad idea to put pressure though.
Now they sort of rise over another little hill.
Yeah, get as close as you get to a guardrail anywhere on this track through there too. Really like this paint job here on Mitchell's car. Kind of got a neat, I don't even know what style you'd call it, but a neat look to it and some good colors.
Ian Giebler's had a scruffy little lap, and he's dropped back from the group with Joshua Soto to now being at risk of being swallowed by the freight train of Mitchell Peak, Ronnie Coates. See, Trevor Roy's had a quick lap there just behind as well, and Michael Chase, and all of them now bearing down.
Yeah, it just looks like he kind of had a bad entry onto Thunder Valley. Not sure I could blame it on any one thing in particular, but yeah, if you're in his shoes, you want to be staying with the guys ahead, not dropping back slowly as he seems to be doing. Who knows though, maybe he figures he needs a push to get reconnected to the guys ahead.
Nick Rasputo back in 17th at the moment, behind Andrew Gilliland and Tom Athon. Just a hint of a little bit of a little push here. Gilliland's looking around in some interesting places to try to make a move.
It's kind of funny to see here. Tom, of course, now running in the pro class, but he's got his old buddy and second place points finisher in the open class, Andrew Gilliland, right behind. So no love lost and a lot of experience driving close between these two. Oh no. Gilliland's giving him a bump. He's giving him some space, though, and he straightens it back out. And it looks like, actually, we're going to see a pit taker here. That's Nick Rice-Puto hitting the pits.
Oh, dear.
Oh, boy.
Oh, just super messy there in the end. I was about to give massive points for the stylish drift to Tom Athon. He just couldn't hold on to it at the end, and he did get unloaded into a massive slide there as the inside was clearly never going to open. Andrew Gilliland was hoping he'd be able to outbrake down the inside of the carousel. And seeing it all happen, Nick Rice-Puto went, you know what? You know what's on the outside of this corner that can get me away from all of this nonsense? Is pit entry. And that's where he went, hoping to get some damage fixed, as well as them starting lap 10, which is the opening of the pit window theoretically as well.
I think a good strategy, all things considered, but a bit of a bummer to run without the draft for a few laps here. I'm actually checked back in with this battle for sixth. Seventh place. Ian Giebler's lost 2 positions from Mitchell Peak and Ronnie Coates, heading through the keyhole this time, and has found himself now firmly in that battle pack behind. And so our open class leader continues to drop back through the pack. Gotta wonder if he was a little bit hard on the tires to set that qualifying lap and is beginning to pay the price now.
Peak just went off the track there as well. One of the places we've seen a lot of drivers do it. Most of them get away with it. It seemed the quickest way just before Thunder Valley.
Yeah, it always always a risk once you start putting the tires off the exit. That's why I always nice to give you those off tracks for it, right? So a couple packs of 3.
What happened to Ken Copeland?
Oh, that's a great question.
He was in 3rd, and now he is last.
Well, he's sitting in the pit lane. I'll go back and take a look.
Well, he's sitting in the pit lane without the front bumper on, or the radiator.
I've taken a look. On the exit of turn number 1, he gets it wrong, and he gets it wrong again while he's trying to recover it, and he bumps it straight into the tire wall that cuts across this section of the track before the little oval there. And, that writes off the steering. So he backs up and tries to get going, and the car's not going anywhere. So Ken Copeland, a moment of inattention, turns what was looking like a sure thing on the podium into, a hard day at the races.
Means then there were 2 up front with Bramley and Hibbert. Joshua Soto was in 3rd, but Zach Burke's just gotten back around him, so I wonder if that group are going to start fighting each other a little more, when theoretically it's possible that they could catch the leaders. And okay, so I was thinking Joshua Soto might have had the fastest lap of the race, but he doesn't. It's Camden Hibbert looks like he does at the moment.
Yeah, Ian Giebler's got a pretty quick one there too with the 36.22, but Soto, no, what am I looking at? I'm looking at the wrong column altogether. Let's just disregard that. Couple cars hitting the pit lane.
Tom Athon and Jose Gonzalez. So Gonzalez from deep in the field and Tom Athon perhaps with a little bit of damage. See, Athon's getting left-hand side tyre, so he's probably going to get all 4 then, if that's the case. Gonzalez missed his pit stall? I think he has. As last place on the grid, he would have had 28th pit stall, so it would have been right near pit entry, and I think he's sailed on past it, expecting it to be closer to pit exit, when in fact it would have been right near pit in at this circuit.
That's a tough one, and I think you're right, though. We'll see. I got to imagine he'll be stopping again next time by. Ken Copeland.
That's not something we see often.
No. Ironically, Ken Copeland, after that drama, has towed around the track and joined the pits, or exited the pits right in front of our 2 leaders. Very graciously gets out of the way, lets the 2 leaders by, but unfortunately for him, that puts him a lap down.
This is 3rd place here. Zach Burke still has it. Michael Coates following him, and Joshua Soto decides he's going to leap out of this, and he's going to pit rather on the early side, which is very interesting to see.
Yeah, Soto tends to be a guy that plays the fuel strategy really well, so definitely a little interesting to see him get off cycle. Not typically how he tends to play these kinds of races. Still following along with Zach Burke here, and I have to take a little bit of blame here. I gave Mitchell Peake credit for being the top qualified Canadian, but it was actually Zach Burke with his 6th place qualifying, and he's going to have to show some of that speed here as he's got Michael Coates coming up the inside. Looks like it might be one of those teamwork deals, though. I think he's letting Michael Coates take this one pretty easily on their way into China Beach.
Gosh, they're not that far ahead of 5th place anymore. I think it's that kind of battling that's cost them some time, that's made Joshua Soto think about doing something else, because at the moment you can see how close Mitchell Peake, Ronnie Coates, Ian Giebler, that next group are. They were closer to sort of 3 or 4 seconds behind, and they've caught a second on the last lap.
Yeah, for those wondering about Jose Gonzalez, sure enough, his pit stall was the very first one on the lane, so he missed it when he went by. That's a bummer. A couple guys who we don't expect to miss their pit boxes. We got Zach Burke and Michael Coates hitting the pit lane this time from 3rd and 4th place. A little bit further down, Michael.
They've all decided to follow what Joshua Soto did then, and then the next group mainly stay out, except for Mitchell Peake.
Soto had a decently fast outlap. A little bit hard to tell until we get a full one under the belt.
Yeah, I guess where these guys are compared to Soto will be pretty important. I think that's Soto up the back there.
Mm-hmm. Crossing the start-finish line, heading into 1. So he'll see that green and red car ahead and know that's his gap to the podium right now.
Yeah, so Peake and Burke and Coates have all been a bit quicker through the lane than Joshua Soto was, and
Peake in particular has been very quick through the lane. That's either he's dropped the one or he's done a real blinder on the pit strategy.
Interesting. I wonder if Soto's just taken a little too much fuel, or he had some other problem with the pit stop, because it seems like while he chose to stop early, that it's been a little bit of a slow one. These are some cars that haven't stopped yet in Bramley and Hibbett. I see what you mean, the cruel irony of racing for Ken Copeland. He's like, I've got the pace to go with these guys, but I'm a whole lap or probably 2 laps down to them. One lap down to them.
Yeah, 1 lap. He's wishing it was like maybe sprint car rules or something where they just give laps back all willy-nilly for red flags and cautions. Ronnie Coates on the lane, taking left sides. Jordy Fike sitting there too behind him. Coates gets away with a pretty quick stop. Actually, a very quick stop relative to what we've seen so far. So it looks like a pretty short fuel stop here today. Could be defining some of the race strategy we'll see. And we see a couple cars joining them up for the battle here. So Jordy Fike's exiting the lane, and Ronnie Coates has come out actually ahead of both Zach Burke and Michael Coates.
HJBC.live has the live timing, and you can see who's pitted, who hasn't, how long their pit stops were, and Ronnie Coates is running in 15th at the moment, is the highest running car to have stopped, and with a very competitive pit stop and lane time as well. It's looking good for Ronnie Coates there then.
Yeah, we'll have to see how these pit cycles shake out in order to really make a judgment. But you got to think that some of these guys who are taking really, really short stops are playing it pretty well.
Car looks lethally loose in the right-handers as it leans on that new left rear tire that isn't up to temperature yet. Oh, it looks so skatey. And that's why he's been caught quite a bit on this outlap by Zach Burke and Michael Coates. Ian Giebler is the open class leader, and he hits the pit lane.
Yeah, the 404 car is going to stop and hopefully manage to connect the fuel appropriately. Sure enough, left side tires going on, and we'll see if that turns into 4 tires. Only taker on the pit lane this lap, though.
I think I'm really only seeing left sides be done.
Yeah, it's always a little bit sketchy when you put the cold tires on the left-hand side. iRacing in particular, it really kind of messes with the handling of the cars for a bit. Looks like we're too wide heading into the keyhole, battling over, is that Jordy Fike and Josh Olson too wide on the exit there, putting on a bit of a show for us and putting on a show for Joshua Soto behind him. Bet you he's hoping that gets sorted out by the time he gets there.
Yeah, Olsen hasn't stopped yet. Fike has, Soto has, most of the other cars around here have. And so that's always the risk as you pit early, that you'll, then be battling for position with some cars that haven't stopped yet, and it might hinder you somewhat. That's always the part of the trade-off of pitting early. You might get out of some traffic, but then only be placed into some others. And so Soto is trying to get around as quick as he can there. Some other cars are stopping, not first and second yet as they carry on, but Trevor Roy and Odyssey Adams Jr. are in.
The battle for the back half of the podium just got a little bit simpler for Zach Burke and Michael Coates. Oh, Zach Burke has a moment going through the last turn there, actually gets the thing all kinds of sideways as they're running down deep in the pack. The two of them were actually battling in a 3-way battle with Mitchell Peak, but last time by, Mitchell Peak just disappeared, as is wont to happen in iRacing, disconnected from the server, and that'll be a heartbreaker for him as he was starting off this season with a pretty strong first race. And now Michael Coates is seeing his opportunity to try and make a little breakaway here, maybe get onto the back of his last name buddy, Ronnie Coates, and make a break for the front.
It's a homophone when things sound the same but are spelt differently.
It might be a homonym. I never really knew.
No, that's two things that are different words but mean the same.
I should have come to you for my English class, Haynes.
What are you teaching these kids, Devon? Camden Hibbett stops, so he was with Bramley in the battle for the race lead, and Hibbett stops while Bramley carries on. And so it separates the leading duo and creates a division between the strategy for Hibbett. If this is a really good stop and he gets new tyres on and they light up quickly, he could take that race lead. But if there's a little bit of an overcut to be had around cold tyres and warm-up, then Bramley could be in a nice spot. A lot of other cars pitting now as well, like Michael Chase, Tom Sanders, and Zeus Dalston.
Have to keep an eye on how that's going, but as you see the cars streaming through the last corner behind them, these battles are starting to heat up as cars are finishing this pit cycle and starting to get close together to people who they're racing with on the exit of the pit lane, where we got Camden Hibbett heading down into the keyhole. And we'll see Tim and Bramley, he's coming through the S's in the middle of the track right now, with a few car lengths back to Ken Copeland a lap down, and then a whole lot of track between him and the rest of the race.
Drifts the car into the corner and then through Thunder Valley. Is this going to be an in-lap? Can Bramley run much longer? He hasn't really slipstreamed anyone this whole race. He's led the whole way from the front. Others might have saved a little bit of fuel, might be able to run a little deeper in this race than him. That's very deep into the carousel, so I think that's pit entry. Yes, it is. You can kind of tell by the way they initially attack the corner if they're committed to trying to run it tight or to take the pit entry. So here comes Bramley in. Hibbett had a very good entry, stop, and exit. So it does need to be good from Bramley to hold on to the race lead. You can see their numbers on the track map.
I was going to say, Hibbett's coming through the final right-hander here and putting together slightly loose but pretty quick-looking outlap. We'll see as he crosses the start-finish line what that does for him in relation to Bramley. Bramley exits the pits, and coming into the first turn with the overspeed is Camden. Oh, and they're going to be too wide into the keyhole.
Oh, I think Hibbett's got way more speed as he carried it all through turn 1, and he goes into the net race lead, still waiting on Lee Martin, Brian Jabelski, Simon Bramley to pit. But then this will become, once again, the battle for the race lead, and Hibbett with that slightly earlier stop is not really going to be able to break the toe here, though, I don't think.
Yeah, he came with the overspeed. That must have been a heck of an outlap because they were identical on the pit lane. 16.5 seconds stopped, 35.0 to 35.2 from Bramley total time on the lane. So as close can be between these two drivers, and 15 minutes to go. And we see again in the background that purple blob of Orlando Harrell exploring the outer reaches of the track, unfortunately. Rejoins it safely though.
The Purple Power Ranger having a couple of exciting adventures today, it seems. He's always been one to save a whole heap of fuel, though. He's often, very, very often, one of the last drivers to stop, and that's true again today, as he's one of the only 3 that are going 19 laps on this opening stint. For Hibbett and Bramley, though, it's a straight-out fight to the end, and some of the traffic in front of them clears out as Lee Martin, Brian Jabelski hit the pit lane, and Orlando Harrell likely will as well, and the timing column will update to say Hibbett versus Bramley racing for the win in the first race of this new season of Spec-5 World Tour. Elsewhere, after all of these pit stops, an absolutely crazy pack is forming behind 7th place Geordie Fike.
Yeah, I've just been riding along with that, and it's spicy back here. There are guys barely missing each other on every single corner entry and every single apex. In particular, Nick Rice-Puto is looking to make a move here on Trevor Roy up the inside, and they're so late on the brakes. Oh my gosh. Rice-Puto makes contact, and the two of them will beat and bang a little bit. They both managed to keep it on the track. I don't think either one of them is going to be happy with the other, though. And gives up a few spots. Odyssey Adams up the inside out. Soto's home free, and Michael Chase has a big gap now back to the two of them. Odyssey covers off now on Nick, and we'll see if Nick repeats his dive bomb. Doesn't this time. Odyssey will hold the spot, but yeah, I wouldn't say that the battle is done here just yet.
And you got some really quick guys in this group as well, like Rice-Puto could have race-winning pace, but he had that contact with Zach Burke early on, and Joshua Soto was on pace to close the leaders down, but then he has had a rather inexplicably long stop that cost him a chunk of time, put him in this pack. So both himself and Rice-Puto are aggressively trying to race their way forwards in this group.
Orlando Harrell's going around for his 20th lap here without a stop. A full 2 laps longer than we thought the fuel window would last. So showing his endurance racing bona fides off here as he's running around in 3rd place, of course, prior to what ought to be a mandatory pit stop. There's no way he makes it 15 more minutes, 12 more minutes.
No, it's not happening, but it is a source of a little bit of frustration to what will be 3rd place Ronnie Coates, Michael Coates.
Coates and Coates back together and battling away. He's going to have the move up the inside this time, Ronnie will. And actually, there's a move for the lead up ahead. Camden Hibbett's just taking the lead down into China Beach. He's going to have to defend off Timon on the inside as they go over the crest, though, and he slides a little bit, loses it. Timon's given space to race, though. Camden's up the inside again, and then back to the left, and it'll be Timon with the advantage. So if you thought that Timon was satisfied running it behind for a little bit, rest assured he wants that lead as much as anything.
Yeah, so a great pit stop and call from Hibbett that got him the lead, and now he's looking, here to try to go back through into the lead. I think Bramley's in the best position here to the carousel. Hibbett will try to set him up onto the pit straight and in towards turn number 1 then. Sort of 10 minutes left, and he does get a great final exit to get a look to the inside of turn number 1. Hibbett wants the race lead back, and I think Bramley will just kind of let him have it and then try to set him up towards the keyhole. As this happens, Coates are as close can be, as close as we've seen anyone to the leading pack in a little while.
Yeah, they're racing real hard with each other. Man, this lead paddle is popping off right now. I can't look away. So Camden's got the run now. Is holding the lead right now with Timon just behind. It looks like Timon's lifting here, though, in the draft a little bit.
Might he need to save a little more in this second stanza of the race, having led all the way in the opening part and then taken about as much fuel as these other guys who had more opportunity to save in the opening stint of the race. Ronnie Coates is so close now. He was kind of 3 seconds back, I think, about a lap ago. Now he's about 1.5 seconds back. He's gaining big time, and I wonder if it's because he has saved more early in this race than first and second place have.
Certainly seems like it. Ronnie Coates does have actually a shorter stop than both of the drivers ahead. The person with the most fuel is actually Michael Coates, running in 4th with an 18-second stop, so nearly 2 extra seconds of fuel in that car. Won't matter here at the end, though, as they cross the line, 7 to go.
How did the sums work out on that one? Where did he get all that time back? Somehow. And it's 1.5 seconds now to cover all the way through the top 4. Hibbett Bramley might... I think as Hibbett rolled out of the throttle, because he needed to save, he got a tiny bit of a tap from Bramley, who now has to look around the outside of the keyhole, which is not really the way to go as far as apex speed. It is the way to go as far as good drive off of the corner. And they are side by side. It's a buffet. Ooh. Pick and choose how to load up your plate if you're Ronnie Coates.
Yeah, I'm not sure which side I'd take. Ronnie's decided the outside. Camden must be feeling really, really short on fuel.
Camden lifting and coasting majorly. No grip around the outside there for Ronnie Coates as he tried to take second place away. And so speed from him is good. The positioning as he tried to make that move, and in fact even considered trying to take the race lead, didn't quite work out, which gives Hibbett his second place back. I just can't let Bramley get away, but Hibbett with that pit stop must have been so short.
It must have been, but I just don't even understand how they've managed to lose 2 seconds a lap over the last 2 laps. It's huge lift and coasts going on at the front. I'm wondering if this is going a lap further than our drivers might have been expecting.
Well, now 23 laps completed with 5 to go, which would bring us to 28, which was the number I think I said at the start of the show. So that's what we were expecting. The question is, were they expecting 27?
Yeah, they were fast in the first half, so we'll have to see. But if the lead pack continues to battle and lose time like this, then we might have a 6-way battle as Michael Chase. Wow, Michael Chase makes a move for 5th place up the inside of Zach Burke on the way into the keyhole, and Burke is able to slam the door shut real late. But that group from 5th place all the way through to 10th place might be a factor here if our leaders keep on fuel saving the way that they are.
Yeah, they're going quicker than the leaders at the moment, but they are looking mighty, mighty racy as again Chase will look down the inside, get forced up a little bit onto the curb. Zach Burke around the outside maintains his position back up the hill.
Burke, real confident in the other drivers. He's making some aggressive defensive moves, not leaving a ton of room for error. But when you know the other guys around you are quality drivers, you can do that sort of thing. Josh Soto lurking in the back of the picture too, 7th place for him, and that's where he qualified. He'll be looking to move forward along with the other guys ahead of him. A lot of big movers in the top 10 here. 2 wide behind.
Yeah, Rice Pudo was trying to make a move, and then Fike and Trevor Roy and Odyssey Adams is this section. So Rice Pudo wants to try to stay with Burke and Chase and Soto, the next 3 cars up in front.
Things settled down at the lead last time by. Low 36s from the top 4. Maybe one of them's listening in on the broadcast. Maybe someone's in the car furiously waving their hands saying, let's race in a straight line, boys.
Now, what's happened here?
It's a little drama
for Heath Threm.
Yeah, it looks like he just gets a little wrong on the way into Thunder Valley. Easy to upset these cars with this baseline setup. You're trying to get them to turn with those brakes, but sometimes you get them turning a little too well.
So Heath Threm runs 21st at the moment, just off that graphic, but 7th in class, where Ian Giebler still leads the open class. He had a long pit stop, and that sort of dropped him out of the top 10 overall where he was racing, but he finds himself ahead of Andrew Gilliland, Greg Mack and Lee Martin, who are all squabbling over the rest of the open class podium positions. They're in a group a couple seconds back from where Giebler leads class at the moment. That's this here.
Yeah, no sure things on that open class podium right now. Bad move from any of them could easily leave them stranded and in the back. And I got a new favorite guy in the open class, Haynes. Zeus Dalston, not only a Zeus, also a Canadian. Jeez, these Canadians just taking over the series, eh?
Is there anything they can't do?
Refrain from apologizing. I think that's what we... Yeah. Anyway, check it back in. Our little battle pack's still going strong. Michael Chase in 6th place is on the inside as Josh Soto takes a stab around the outside of the keyhole, trying to make it work. Doesn't quite have the grip to roll the exit, but things are no way settled there.
No, definitely not. And I think that this position that Joshua Soto's in at the moment isn't really representative of the pace that he's got, which it absolutely was race leading pace, but something has gone awry with his stop that cost him too much time to be up front and has put him here looking to see if a top 5 is how he can start his season. There's just not too many laps left with only 3 minutes remaining amongst all of this as well. Trevor Roy's the driver around the outside there, but then he comes back across onto the racing line. Geordie Fike with white and red stripes, not able to get down the inside here, but does he trick Roy into running a little wide? Apparently not this time. 2 laps to go. I'm looking at the clock and I don't see any, super cutting it close confusion that would suggest this was ever going to be anything but a 28-lap race. So after a little bit of excitement, it's all simmered down a little bit, like Bramley and Hibbert have picked up a little bit more speed, and Coates with his super quick stop might be needing to save now as well.
Yeah, it's looked a little spicy for 3rd and 4th, but Timon and Camden just seem to have a little bit extra that's allowing them to keep about half-second gap to the back half of the podium.
Joshua Soto takes a position at the keyhole from Michael Chase, and now rather than following the slipstream of Zach Burke, looks to defend the inside, and it means a huge amount of speed to try to break around the outside for Chase, but it doesn't work.
That was a brave move. Drifts it across the apex, slams the door shut on Michael Chase behind, makes sure that he holds on to that position. Nick Rice-Pudo now getting onto the back of that battle. One to go this time by, and Josh will be looking for his chance. 21-second pit stop from him, by far the slowest in our top 10. So he'll be kicking himself because he's about 8 seconds back from the leaders, and he'd be right on him if he had that shorter stop.
It's a totally different alternative universe where he had that quicker stop, because then he's also not in this battle group. He's further up the road. He's part of the other battle group. And as we are on the final lap, the charge from Ronnie Coates and Michael Coates has petered out. They, I guess, maybe had a couple of laps to try to attack it, and now they've dropped back. Camden Hibbett has run it the other way around. He's had his couple of laps to try to save. Now it's his lap to attack. He gets down the inside of the keyhole on the final lap. Timon Bramley's forced to give him a little bit of room, but only saw him at the last moment. And now for Bramley, he'll be hoping at the end of this straight to get the race lead back off Camden Hibbett, because you can probably defend it all the rest of the way. Weird line from Hibbett, who leaves the inside open for Bramley, has his nose in front at the braking zone, has the preferred positioning, drifts out a little bit wide, and maybe almost makes a little bit of contact with Hibbett, who will demand the inside at the top of the hill. And they're absolutely side by side. We've seen this kind of side by side multiple times in this back half of the lap at Mid-Ohio. Does Bramley have the fuel? Does he have the grip? They're going to be side by side across the next hill. Bramley still with the inside. Hibbett refusing to give up, looking to go over under now on the way down to Thunder Valley, and it might all come down to the braking into the carousel up close to the guardrail, carrying speed across this crest, not quite flat out. The tail kicks out on the old tires for Bramley. Hibbett wants the inside, and it's not going to present, or will it? He'll throw the nose in with a little bit of a slide right up on the curb, look to get a good drive off the exit, but it will be to no avail, because the checkered flag falls for Timon Bramley as he takes the first win of the season. Burke and Soto have made contact in the carousel as well, and it lets Nick Rice-Puto pick all of their pockets and grab 5th place at the line.
Yeah, things get shook up there on the back half of the top 10. Odyssey Adams crosses the line in 9th, 10th place, going to Jordy Fike. Zach Burke 11th after that touch on the final corner. Ian Giebler's going to hold on for the open class win. Andrew Gilliland holds on for second. Greg Mack a second behind, not going to get there and challenge for the back of the open podium.
If anything they had to save, they saved it all for the last lap, and drama all the way through the top 5 and the top 10, the final lap at Mid-Ohio.
Well, that's the good stuff. That's why people come out and race in this series, with the sort of quality management of the series, all the oversight, all the extra race that gets done, all the extra work that gets done between the races. You can have this kind of quality racing. Shame about how it goes between Zach. I got to think that Josh was feeling a little bit disappointed by his lot in the race. He gets a little too aggressive there on the final lap. I imagine that'll get dealt with by his stewards between the races, but a shame nonetheless, marring what was otherwise a remarkably clean race between 28 very motivated, very competitive drivers.
Looking then at how they all crossed the line, Timon Bramley with the win. Camden Hibbett fought him for it all the way to the line, got second. Michael Coates ended up in third. I think that car was spluttering on fumes at the end for Ronnie Coates, because he was about 2 seconds off his pace on the final lap. Nick Rice-Puto, we saw, snuck through for 5th as Joshua Soto tried to pick it up for 6th, Michael Chase in 7th, and Trevor Roy, Odyssey Adams Jr. and Jordy Fike all managed to get past Zach Burke right at the end there. Tom Sanders came across the line in 12th, then into the open class runners where Ian Giebler, Andrew Gilliland, Greg Mack and Lee Martin, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th in their class. Brian Jabelski, then Zeus Dalston, Andy Kosick and Tom Aton in 20th. All these cars still on the lead lap. Heath Threm, Sean Hayes, Ken Copeland, Orlando Harrell and Jose Gonzalez. It was 3 laps down for Josh Olson and 9 laps down for Tim Wire and 14 down for Mitchell Peak.
Well, I've got our open class winner here with us in the booth. Ian, third place in Champ Car points last year, go-karts and Miatas in the real world, and now you're here in the Spec-5 series putting on a show for us.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a lot of fun. This is my first time joining the Spec-5 series. Really great group of people to race with. Jordy, I believe was his name, gave a awesome little speech to us before the race, got us excited. It was really fun. Hopefully we put on a good broadcast.
Well, you absolutely put on a show during the qualifying session there, qualifying up in, what was that, fourth place?
Yeah, I had a hero lap. I definitely did not replicate that lap again during the race.
Yeah, I noticed that you were struggling a little bit for pace in the middle section there. What do you think was the difference?
Well, I didn't do a good fuel strategy. I let iRacing decide how much fuel to put in. I think I ended with like 6 or 7 laps of fuel left. So I had a heavy car coming out of the pits, and I took probably a 10-second longer pit stop than everyone else. So when it all shuffled out, I noticed I was right in with my class.
Hey, it works out okay though. Putting on a W in the column for the first race of the season. What are your hopes for this season?
Yeah, I'm going to be mixing it up between this and the Champ Car. I know that's kind of schedule is coming to an end soon, so I'm hoping to keep joining a couple of these races. A lot of fun. Seems like a great group to race with.
Quality stuff. Anyone you need shout out for today's race?
As always, wife for putting the kids to bed, Summit Racing, and this group. Fun time.
Good stuff. Any luck finding anyone else, Haynes?
Well, I suspect we're going to have to get Camden Hibbett's perspective if the Pro Class winner is unable to join us. So Camden Hibbett will join us. You had a real never say die attitude, I think, about this race.
Yeah, it was. I was unnecessarily fuel saving. Unfortunately, my race labs was showing 29 laps, which would have left me at sputtering coming into the S's. So I had to do something. That's why I let Timon back by, and I think that's ultimately why the Coates duo catch back up to us in the end. But yeah, it was a crazy race. It was awesome racing Timon at the end there. That was an awesome battle, and yeah, looking forward to next week for sure.
Yeah, there we go. Your championship's off to a very spicy start. There are a lot of quick guys that we saw here for this opening one. I think if you just look at sort of the pace, it could have been anyone between yourself and Bramley or Zach Burke, or Joshua Soto, Nick Rice-Puto, those guys. It was super competitive.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a tight group tonight. I mean, the practice times were all really close. So was qualifying. I think Timon was definitely the class of the field and single lap speed, but I think, like you said, everybody was pretty much able to keep up with him in the race and on race pace. So it was definitely a strategy race. Knowing I was trying to slow down Timon at the end there to try and keep it to 28 laps, and it ended up being 28 laps, which I managed to do. But by the time I had got to that 28 lap number, I had already saved too much, and it was on between me and Timon. I think if I would have taken another 1/10 of a gallon of fuel in the pit stop, I think it would have. I think I might have been able to run away with it there. I think I had like a 2-second lead with like 10 minutes to go. So it's unfortunate that the fuel strategy didn't work out great, but it was an awesome race, and yeah, certainly is. I think it was anybody's game tonight.
You won't have to wait long to try again next week in Spec-5 World Tour. Anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, Byers Automotive, Rainier Construction, Aussie Sales, Westerville Automotive, Team Spirit Custom Trailers, and Auto Smarts Radio. They've been a huge help in the real life Spec Miata. This was great practice for this coming weekend where we go to this track in real life with the Spec Miata. So anybody in the local Columbus, Ohio area, come check us out. If you want, send us a message on Instagram at Team Hibbett, and we'll give you some more info. Would love to see it out there. yeah, it was definitely looking forward to Mosport and Sebring the next week. Definitely 2 draft tracks where I think it could be some fun racing again the next week here also.
Awesome. Best of luck this weekend.
Thank you, guys. And thank you guys for the broadcast as well. You guys do an amazing job. So thank you for that as well.
Devin, we've got one more pro class driver to chat with as well.
Yeah, I've just found Nick Rice-Puto here on Rice-Puto. You got the distinction of being on the receiving end of I think the biggest hit of the race today.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I kind of went off right before, and then it kind of forced him off, and then he kind of lost control, and then came across on the grass. It was just unfortunate.
Quality recovery drive by the looks of things, though, getting yourself all the way up into the top 5.
Yeah, that was the undercut of the century. I still had a fast repair. I was a little down on power after the hit, but as soon as I hit lap 9, that was my pit window, and I went in and I undercut like 9 cars, which was kind of crazy.
Great job out there, man. Anyone you need to thank for today's performance?
Thank you, Delta Sport. That's pretty much it, guys. But thanks for the great broadcasts and a great series.
Always a pleasure.
Don't you love when they say thanks for the broadcast when they haven't watched it yet or heard what you just said about them in the previous 45 minutes? We're well restrained, but maybe one time a driver will tell us that and regret it. The drivers won't have to wait long, and you and I won't have to wait long for the next dose of Spec-5 World Tour, because round 2 is just a week away. Same time every Thursday night for this season. We look forward to that, and we say congratulations to our pro and open class drivers from Mid-Ohio, Simon Bramley and Ian Giebler. Been David Haynes with Devin Peters, Michael Derby, our producer. Wherever you're watching, make sure you subscribe, especially if it's our new HJBC YouTube channel. Want to get that one going, and that's where you'll find all of the racing of Season 14 of the Spec-5 World Tour. We'll see you in a week's time.